Family work is really what my passion is. What it means that addiction is a family disease is that while one person certainly may struggle with chemical dependency, that it impacts everybody within that family system. The family disease really by definition is that other family members become so hyper-focused on their loved one that has an addiction that they take the focus off themselves and begin to ignore their own health. Also, families are systems, and like any system, when one piece is malfunctioning, it certainly impacts all the pieces within that system. So the more that people within that system, in this case the family system, are taking care of themselves, the more likely it is that their loved one that's here is going to have a much better chance of getting well. As family counselors, the way that we support family members can be a number of things, because certainly different family members need different things. It may be education on the disease of addiction. This may be the first time that they've ever experienced a loved one with an addiction, so they may be completely clueless about what's going on. It may be identifying with family members how they need their own support, whether the family member is struggling with their own issues of depression, sometimes their own substance abuse. Normally in the life of an addict or alcoholic, there's usually at least one person that's also a chronic enabler. So to help family members to identify that while that behavior is oftentimes driven by love and fear, it actually is extending or keeping the person sick. So part of our role is to really to assess, what does this person or what does this family need, and then to either deliver those services ourselves or to make sure that they're linked to services in their area that they can receive those.
Addiction is a family disease because the family is a system, and the family is a system that works together. The family must be looked at as a living and relational system so that we can understand its patterns of interaction. A system is a group of interrelated parts and the way they function, so the whole is more than the sum of its parts, and the parts are more than just a fraction of the whole. Family systems strive for what's called homeostasis. And homeostasis is when there's equilibrium and the system can adapt to stressors in the environment to keep a balance. Homeostasis also allows for flexibility, which is important for the survival and growth of the family system. Flexibility is the ability of the family system to be able to change leadership, roles, and rules. So it balances stability with adaptability. And when addiction is present in the family, that disequilibrium or imbalance happens. Here on the right, I've shown what happens to a family's homeostasis when addiction is present. The set point for homeostasis evolves because the allostatic load, or the stressors on the family, become higher and higher, which forces the family to make a new set point for homeostasis where the family feels comfortable. The family gets used to these high stressors, and that's where the new set point comes in. When addiction is present in a family system, boundaries are often destroyed or there's room for new boundaries to be created that are usually unhealthy. Boundaries are often not agreed upon or chosen by the family system when addiction is present as well. Roles should be fluid and flexible, and addiction makes these roles more extreme. The roles that a family can have is the enabler, which is usually the caretaker of the family, the super responsible one. They often intervene so others don't have to be responsible for the addict. Then there's the hero. This person gives legitimacy to the family, someone who is good in the family. As the family dynamic gets worse, the hero will try harder to succeed. Then there's the scapegoat, the troublemaker in the family. They take blame for the family's problems, will withdraw from the family and find belonging somewhere else, and they get attention through destructive ways usually. Then there's also the lost child. This person will spend a lot of time alone or by being busy. They've learned to stay out of the way of the family, and they receive little attention, if at all. And then there's the mascot, who is the comedic relief of the family. They lessen the tension through comedy. Children growing up in families where addiction is present, there's often a denial of feelings for the child. The children must maintain the illusion of normalcy even when they are in pain. They undertake parental duties. They are often deprived emotionally because of the unpredictability in the family system. And parents are usually unavailable because they're so wrapped up in the addiction, and families often become isolated as well. Hi, I just want to say that I've made this video to bring awareness to addiction being a family disease and not just an individual disease. I want to share my own personal experience as someone who grew up in a family where addiction was present. My dad was an alcoholic and an addict. Everyone in my family was affected by my dad's addiction one way or another. We all ignored our own needs because we were hyper-focused on my dad's addiction. When he was home, we were all hyper-aware of how he was feeling. I remember trying to stay quiet while I played, because if I was too loud, it might make my dad really mad. I remember trying to predict how my dad was doing so that I could decide if I was going to have a good day or a bad day. My mood really revolved around his mood, which was usually unpredictable and made our family system very chaotic. There was a lot of stress because anything could set my dad off, but it became our normal, our homeostasis, you could say. We were comfortable in our own dysfunction. We were isolated from everybody. The addiction had all the power in our family system, and we all organized around it. I did experience trauma as a result of growing up in a family where addiction was present. I felt like my dad didn't love me enough to quit drinking and using drugs. I felt like I was part of the problem. I had anxiety because things were so unpredictable. And I have a hard time trusting people even now as an adult. As a result of not being able to trust anything my dad would tell me, and being disappointed repeatedly, time and time again, every time he relapsed. It felt like it would never stop. I would be confused and not know what was happening. I remember my older siblings and mom making me go outside while they dealt with my dad sometimes, and I felt angry as I got older and started to understand that our family system was very dysfunctional. I also have struggled with depression as a child and as an adult. I've watched my mom suffer from codependency with my dad. They both needed each other and relied on each other, and I feel like they both enabled each other. I've watched my siblings all suffer from the dysfunction that we lived in. And addiction really is a family problem, not an individual problem, and I know this because I've lived it.